Fortunately, Seven reacted quickly and wasn't discovered. But Little Tiger wasn't being jealous. With White Crab being reckless, he immediately lifted a giant rock and smashed it down, but he felt reassured as prisoners were taken away, leaving the poor child alone. They crossed the rushing river. Walking on the edge of the cliff, one young man couldn't hold on and fell, dragging others down with him. In a critical moment, Big Smash hooked his leg around a tree root, temporarily stabilizing the situation. The enemies watched the scene, not extending a hand, but instead calmly squatting down to munch on snacks, enjoying the terrified expressions on the slaves' faces. They laughed their heads off, watching as the big tree was about to be uprooted. Big Smash Alliance shouted for everyone to pitch in, and finally, with their combined effort, they rescued the two from the cliff. But the danger persisted. The arrivals board cut the slaves' ropes. Then they directly shoved him down into the abyss, and at that moment, the general arrived. Noticing one less slave, he realized he was causing trouble and pulled out a knife to warn if another went missing. Had used him as a substitute. Faced with the general, the young man trembled and had no choice but to lead the slaves onward. Soon after, they passed by an abandoned village, when suddenly the sound of trees being chopped echoed through the forest, and a huge tree slowly fell, but fortunately everyone reacted in time and dodged it. Up ahead, they encountered a strange little girl, whose mother had died of the plague, crying out for help. But the man ruthlessly pushed her with a stick. They had no compassion. When she insisted, he hit her hard in the chest. However, the girl didn't cry. Instead, she stared solemnly at the protagonist, Little Tiger, prophesying what was about to happen. Observing the girl's perplexing and bizarre actions, this sent shivers down everyone, but they ignored it. Soon, they reached my city's outskirts, passing a quarry first. The air was thick with dust, blanketing the ground white, and the suffocating smell filled the air as slaves often coughed up blood from long hours of work, but nobody cared about their lives. Soon, they reached a desolate village, filthy and full of those who died from the plague. Beyond the village lay a bustling town, vastly different, where people worked orderly in imitation clothing. They lived in beautifully constructed stone palaces, and then they removed the shackles from the slaves and traded them. Those lucky enough were dyed with blood. This symbolized the sacrifices. Next, they entered my city for a grand ritual at the end of the civilization. In theocracy, my royalty and priests attributed decline to God's discontent, proving their loyalty. They insisted on using last sacrifices, hoping the gods would rid them of the plague. The long-term slaughter turned the altar's steps pitch black. As slave bodies rolled, Maya and the audience grew excited, while sacrificial slaves trembled. Among them was the protagonist, Little Tiger, utterly hopeless. He stood bleakly on the altar. Just as the high priest was about to begin, something unusual happened in the sky. The originally cloudless and clear sky was gradually shrouded by dense darkness, and this rare phenomenon of a solar eclipse led the faithful to mistakenly believe that the gods were wrathful, causing a ripple of agitation and unease to spread through the crowd. At this moment, the high priest hastily emerged from the temple to soothe the frightened hearts of the believers. The next moment, warm sunlight shone, thrilling everyone who thought it a sign from the sun god, sparing Little Tiger's life. But the real hunt just began. Remaining slaves were taken to hunting grounds, and the chief handed a weapon to his son to be the Terminator on the other side. Then the chief ordered the ropes to be untied from all the slaves and told them things weren't so simple. When two slaves broke free and ran, the hunters behind them began their mad attack. It turned into a hunting game where the unarmed slaves became their prey. One hunter launched a fist-sized stone, hitting one of the fleeing slaves. Big Smash, who narrowly escaped, urged everyone to run. But the next moment, he was pierced through the chest with a dark gun, yet the two didn't give up on escaping. They kept crawling, and next came Little Tiger. Starting with the snake-like maneuver, it worked. They easily dodged hunters' attacks. The second-in-command couldn't resist and shot an arrow, sending a companion to the afterlife. Just as Little Tiger was about to escape from the cornfield, the hunter chief finally sprang into action. Little Tiger was shot down by an arrow. The Terminator approached to kill him, but was suddenly flipped by seriously injured Big Smash. Taking advantage of the chaos, Little Tiger grabbed the arrow, piercing the Terminator's throat when he turned, counterattacking successfully. Then Little Tiger pulled out the arrow and desperately ran toward the cornfield, while the chief, seeing his son killed, led his men after him. He sought revenge for his son, sparking a massacre. In his panic, Little Tiger fell into a deep pit and looked up. The sight left him stunned. The pit was packed with bodies. He quickened his pace, covering his wound as he scrambled. He quickly escaped into the jungle, hiding in a tree to evade the enemy's eyes, and the hunters failed to spot him. But his wound bled profusely. A drop of blood dripped from the leaves onto a hunter's back. Although he didn't notice immediately, it was only a matter of time. Yet another wave arose. When he turned, a large rat stared, and Little Tiger was seen in a life-and-death race with it. The commotion drew enemy's attention. The chief spotted fleeing Little Tiger they'd lost. Hunters rushed towards him. A young man rushed to intercept Little Tiger but was pounced by the Black Panther, and hunters immediately attacked fiercely. The hunter's final deep stab ended the panther's breath, yet it cast an indelible shadow over the hunter. However, the chief dismissed the prophecies, only wanting to kill Little Tiger and avenge his son. He led his men in pursuit once again. Soon, they killed the panther and the hunter's target was clear. They quickly found the clue, paint on Little Tiger. But before he could celebrate, a viper struck him fatally, and his teammate quickly stepped in to deal with the snake. But it was too late. The bitten hunter was deeply poisoned, and they decided to abandon him, leaving him behind as they continued the chase for Little Tiger. On the other side, Little Tiger's wound still bled. He'd surely die if it continued. He bit, chewed, and stuffed bark into it. However, the hunters, furious, aimed to kill Little Tiger. They hurled weapons, but he dodged effortlessly.